Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, thank you, Mr. Producer. We are back, and I am joined by Laura Dixon. Laura, you just schooled me on something. I had a Canadian roommate, and for some reason, I always thought that we celebrated Thanksgiving the same. But what do they do in Canada for Thanksgiving?
So we actually celebrate it in October. I think it's the second weekend in October that we celebrate it. Now it's still called Thanksgiving. We get like a Monday off, the Monday of that weekend off. So it's a 3-day instead of a 4-day. And yeah, it's in October. So it's very similar, family gatherings, all that kind of stuff.
Gratitude,
I
all
think
that.
though you guys have gratitude, all that too. I think you guys have some football and right. I feel like your Thanksgiving is a little bit more football. And then there's a Black Friday, all that kind of stuff too.
It's all
It's
that.
quite an event.
It really is. Okay. So yeah. So we're getting ready for that, but it's a great time just to be with the ones that matter. That really, to be grateful for things that we have. I think it's my favorite.
Is it more
Or
than
Christmas.
Christmas?
Or Christmas.
Yeah.
How about you?
You know what? I'd have to say Christmas is my favorite. I feel like everybody slows down. And I know, especially even when I worked like the corporate job, like I feel like it's almost 2 weeks of everybody slowing down and actually taking vacation. So it's not like you're being bombarded by emails. Usually during those 2 weeks or at least a week and a half, I find now working on my own, I just really give myself the time, put the phone away, and I feel so refreshed in January. I feel so good.
That's a
So I
great.
really look forward to that. Like really, I take what I preach and just really, allow rest. And like in January, I'm like a whole new person. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many ideas. This is so great.
That's awesome, and it's a great idea, and it's gonna rear its head when we go into our topics today, because you got some great topics for today. But
Hmm.
before we get there, can you kind of just reintroduce yourself to everyone and what you do and how you're helping people?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Laura Dixon. I am a clinical EFT practitioner as well as a personal trainer and yoga instructor. I used to work the corporate job for about 16 years. I started my own business about 6 years ago. So I love helping busy women with stress and movement, which then also leads into body confidence as well. So I found when I was working the corporate gig, everyone was so stressed. The word busy was so common. And I had 2 young children at the time. So I was commuting to the city, so like I understood it, but it's amazing when you can change a little bit of the mindset. Yes, everybody's busy, but if you can change your perspective a little bit on how you look at that busyness, your whole body can react a little bit differently, a little more calmly.
I got you, and I know that women are super women. I mean, there's no limit. You guys are so much tougher and more resilient, and can just take for instance the pain threshold. I mean, I have a friend who's a tattoo artist, and he said the guys are the first ones to check out. You never get a woman to check out. I mean, you guys pretty you're tough as nails, but
Yeah. Well, we do have to give birth too,
oh,
so
that thing. Oh, yeah.
that's that was pain like I had never experienced.
Only imagine. Oh, we would fold in a minute. We would. I mean,
Oh yeah. I have to, yeah. It's I have 2 girls, and I've said the odd thing about, they play their sports and whatever, so they do get hurt. And I'm like, like you not to not feel it, but sometimes you gotta suck it up a little bit. And I'm always like in the back of my head, I'm like, oh gosh, if you two ever decide to give birth.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, your 2 daughters were athletes?
Yeah. So they're 11 and 13. Yeah, they both are big hockey players, being Canadian. Of
That's
course, they're
awesome.
hockey players. Now, my 11-year-old is also into softball, so playing rep softball as well, which has been super exciting because I actually grew up doing that. So I help coach her as well in the team. So it's so exciting because it just brings back that nostalgic feeling of being that kid. Like, there wasn't girls hockey when I was little in the area that I lived in. So, and I always wanted to play, but anyway, softball was our thing. So it really brings back memories of, being on the field and all that stuff about softball and the excitement and the team camaraderie and the cheering. Like softball is like the girls cheer. It's so awesome. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this. I
Right.
loved all this stuff. Yeah. So
Eh,
yeah, so they're big athletes. My other one, actually, we're convincing her to just even start to play house league softball because when we go out and practice, she just smashes the ball. Like she
Oh, she's got the stick. Okay.
Oh yeah, we're like, you got to go out and play. Like it's so fun.
Isn't that funny how, just some, they could be beginners, whatever, but you can just see
Oh,
they got it. Probably from you, of course.
well, and my husband is quite an athlete.
He's a
Like
good athlete too, yeah?
oh yeah, he's actually like naturally athletic. I would say I have more of like a work hard mentality and some natural capabilities. I do have some family too that were big sports people, but
Mm.
yeah, my husband is definitely like, even his mom is still like, I don't want to golf with her. She kicks my butt. Like she's like 75 and I'm like, she's kicking my butt.
Well, uh, so I'm wondering now, obviously your family has great genetics as far as sports and athletics, but when you talk about exercise, um, is it something that you have to do or something you're born with? What do you feel about
Ooh,
exercising?
you know what? That is a great question. So I always explain to people, like, I understand I enjoy movement, but it's probably because, having a little athletic background,
Good at it,
I'm
yeah.
fairly decent at it, right?
Yeah,
Now, saying that, no matter where you are in the spectrum, I have also used exercise as punishment for eating too much. So I also enjoy eating. So not like I don't do it anymore, but I would say in my 20s,
right.
have a good weekend, eat too much. And it was like, okay, how much can I burn with my workouts? They got to be an hour long. Sometimes they'd be 2 hours long. Like my girlfriend and I used to go and Saturday morning at 8 a.m. do an hour reformer, then an hour spin class, right? And like
Wow.
after we had been out late the night before, like so it was punishment. It was like, well, I did that, so now I have to burn it off.
That's
So
discipline right there.
well, definitely there's a little bit of discipline, but the mental games is still there with the pun that is I'm using it as punishment.
Okay.
So I say that to I understand for other people, and what I was I want to talk about today is reasons why people don't want to exercise. And one of the big ones is the negative associations to exercise. So people that maybe weren't born athletic or were never good. So as a child, they weren't picked for the sports teams, or they weren't picked, even at recess.
Right.
That they were in gym class, which it seems so interesting now that an adult would actually let children pick teams because the people that are getting picked last are not feeling so good about themselves,
Right.
right? But
Right.
yeah, recess it still happens. I think my daughter came home the other day and said, "Oh, I was so excited because soccer is not one of our sports." But she's like, "Oh, they picked me because I'm good, right?" So I'm like, "Oh gosh, so they're still doing that."
They're still doing that. Wow.
Right?
Yeah,
Which is
that's so
it's
bad.
it's so bad for the kids that aren't being picked. It's
Right.
great when you're the first one picked, just your ego, whatever.
Yeah.
But for the ones that aren't getting picked, that lasts a lot of the times into adulthood because then you start creating these beliefs is like, I'm not athletic, I'm not good at it, all this stuff. So you don't want to move your body. So that is a big negative association for a lot of people is the stuff as a child, not being good, or maybe in gym class when you did the testing too, right? Like you're just not good at any of it.
Right.
So you create these negative beliefs. So with EFT, so what EFT stands for, so when I say I'm a clinical EFT practitioner, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, also known as tapping,
The
and probably
tapping.
better known as tapping,
Okay.
right? More people have heard
Yeah,
tapping
that's why I'm more
versus
familiar with it, that tapping. I thought it was the same.
yeah,
I was going to ask you, but okay, thanks for
yep,
clearing that
yep,
up.
yep. So it's the same thing. So what we can do with the tapping is, because basically I'd say most of us know exercise is good for us.
Mhm.
It helps increase our lifespan, decreases stress, gives us more energy, can help decrease blood pressure, all of that stuff. Yet so many people don't do it on a consistent basis,
Right.
right? So it's like, why? And, people kind of brush it by. So, but one of the big things is negative associations. They don't feel like they're good at it. Maybe they're using it as punishment. So they have a negative association. A lot of people talk negatively to themselves while they're exercising. So
Like
it's
what?
interesting. They talk negatively to themselves while they're exercising. For instance, especially as women, we're looking at our least favorite body part and being like, oh my God,
Oh,
oh, look at that. Or how did I let myself get this far?
ah,
What happened? I'm not doing this well. I can't do this. So all that stuff while we're exercising, your subconscious is like, hell's no, I don't want to go back and do that again, because we're making ourselves feel horrible about it.
yeah. It doesn't help
So
that there's
that
mirrors all over the place with the brightest lights ever. So if you want to concentrate on something bad about your physical appearance, the gym is
it's
the great place for that. I
it's
understand.
there. And actually with that, actually was interesting with my yoga certification. It was like no mirrors. And I found it interesting. I was like, but I'm always wanted to look at my form.
Okay.
But now I totally see, because I have mirrors. I work out of my basement and I have mirrors down there. And sometimes I get looking at a part maybe I don't like versus just feeling the movement.
Got
So a
it.
lot of times in the yoga classes, I will cover up the mirrors.
Good idea.
So you're just feeling, rather than, because as women, we naturally want to talk badly about ourselves. So anyway, this is what the EFT helps with. So we can tap on, maybe those incidences as children where we were picked last in gym class or picked last for the sports teams. Or maybe, the punishment piece can also even be for athletes where, you didn't do that, you didn't catch that ball. So you have to go run 10 laps, or you have to do 20 push-ups, right? I think a lot of people can, relate to
Oh,
that. So even if you
100%.
were an athlete, right, there was still a punishment factor with movement, right?
It's a
So
great
we
point.
can, yeah, we can tap on even that kind of stuff. So once you start to release it, your body doesn't believe these things anymore. So you just actually go through and talk about, usually there's a specific event or events like getting picked last, but usually people can remember, the baseball diamond, the exact, image of what was going on at that time. So when we can tap and release that, we start to wipe out these negative beliefs people have about themselves. We can also tap on the negative things they're saying to themselves while they're working out. So actually just like tapping and being like, I look so fat. I'm not doing this right. Like you could actually like be angry, like and tap, and then we're actually calming the system down and allowing that memory to not have so much negative charge to it. And so you don't believe it anymore. You're like, no, actually, I'm doing the best I can. My body looks right. My body looks great. Or like you start to shift your thoughts and your perspective, which is great, because if you can release that a negative association, then you'll be more apt to make movement. I mean, ultimately, we're trying to make movement enjoyable,
Yeah.
because if it's enjoyable, it's going to be sustainable and be part of a lifestyle.
Got it.
Okay. But if we're looking at it as punishment or talking to ourselves negatively, all that stuff, we might go in, roller coasters of yay, we're good, and then we're not. And then yay, we're okay, it's January 1st, let's start exercising again. And then we fall off, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we can actually make it enjoyable, we continue to do it as a lifestyle. And when I say, I just want to make sure this is clear too, exercise and movement, it doesn't have to be some crazy hour-long sweat crazy session. I'm talking like for starting walking,
Okay.
right? Walking counts as movement. Yoga counts as movement, low impact. I mean, for most women, and I would say most people in general, they're pretty stressed already.
Yeah.
So if we're stressing our body out every day with the workout, we're actually adding to the stress and the cortisol levels, which isn't necessarily good for us either. So, low impacts, consistent exercise is actually just the best, which I think for a lot of people, that's like, oh, really? That makes it seem so much more achievable and enjoyable. And again, 10 minutes. Like, what if you could go out for a 10-minute walk whether it's in the middle of your day, at the end of your day. Like that's another trick I always like to play. And I sometimes even with myself, I'll be like, let's just go do something for 10 minutes. Your brain goes, oh, I can do that. 10 minutes. That's so doable. Then that 10 minutes can sometimes lead into longer because you start actually enjoying it. You're like, actually, I'm feeling really good. Like whether it's walking, going, doing some squats and planks, and you're like, actually, I'm feeling really good. Maybe I could do one more round of these. That's another little trick I always like to play is just tell yourself 10 minutes.
So it's
Most people
changing
can
your how you're
perspective.
thinking about exercise. It doesn't have to be, oh, I got to go do this. If you start with 10 minutes, let me ask you this. How
Yeah.
about like here's a silly example. Like say you're doing the cat litter or something like that, and excuse me, you change that into every time you go to scoop the cat litter, you do a squat. So by the end, maybe you did 10 or 15 squats.
Yeah.
Is that something good? Is that
Oh,
along these lines?
100%. That's actually awesome. And that's like the habit. So have you ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Uh-uh.
That's that excellent book, but he talks about that where it's like, okay, you go to do something and then you do this. So you're associating the cat litter with a squat. And then 15 squats a day, if you're starting from nothing, that's awesome. And even if you're doing something, you're adding 15 squats in a day, that's amazing,
Yes.
right? Any type of movement is amazing. And then as you start to feel better and stronger, you'll start to want to do a little bit more, right? So it's just getting over that. I always say getting started is always the hardest part.
Yeah.
Right. But and then when we can use tapping to work through any of this negative associations, then we can really get you going and moving and making it enjoyable, which is amazing.
Yeah. So tapping is really good for people beginning to get on an exercise routine.
100%. You could, do a tap on, I don't want to start. I'm scared to start. It's maybe my body hurts now, but I know I have to do it, but I don't really want to do it. Like you could actually do around there.
Oh,
I mean, we could do one now. I mean, there are two other main reasons why people don't exercise. One
what are they?
being I would say pain and fatigue. I'd put them in the same bucket. And the last one, which I feel like the biggest one, is no time.
Everybody says that. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, no time for that. Now what Casey, are you a fitness person
Yeah.
or like is it it's a regular routine for you?
Yes.
So that's your regular routine. Okay. But what we could do for the listeners out there, because I do feel like no time is a big one, we could do some tapping on not having any time if that
That'd be
feels
great.
like wouldn't that be fun? I
Yeah.
think it'd be really good.
Yeah.
If you're listening in, driving, maybe, pause it and come to a tapping when you're not behind the wheel. But basically, I'll try and explain the points as we're going around, just because if you're just listening in. And we'll start, basically, we start on the side of the hand. And what we're doing is we're really tapping on acupuncture points. So it's called acupressure. So if if you can see me, just follow along. What I will do, Casey, is I'm going to say something and you're going to, like Simon says, you're going to repeat after
Okay.
me. Okay.
And
All
are you
right. So
using all your fingers when you're tapping?
you know what? I kind of use three. I feel like my pinky's kind of short, but you could use three or four depending on the length of your fingers.
Okay. And we're doing it
Okay.
on our hand right now. What are we doing?
Yeah. So we're on the side of our hand. So we're beneath the pinky. I always kind of say it's a bit of a meaty part of the hand, right underneath the pinky. And it doesn't matter which side we do. So you could do one or the other. Okay. And either anytime we're on one side, it doesn't matter what side we do.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to say a sentence and you're just going to repeat after me. I'll break the first sentence up into chunks because it's a bit longer.
Okay.
Okay. So even though I have no time to exercise,
Even though I have no time to exercise,
I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
Okay. Even though I don't make exercising a priority,
Even though I don't make exercising a priority,
I love and accept myself and I'm okay.
I love and accept myself and I'm okay.
Yeah. Even though I feel guilty taking time for myself,
Even though I feel guilty taking time for myself,
I deeply and completely accept how I feel.
I deeply and completely accept how I feel.
All right, so now we're going to come to the eyebrow point, which is right where the eyebrow meets the bridge of the nose. So again, you could do one side, you could do the other, you could do both. Okay, so it doesn't matter there. So my health is not that important.
My health is not that important.
Side of the eye, I have too many other things to do.
I have too many other things to do.
Under the eye, there's no time in my life.
There is no time in my life.
Under the nose, I'm so busy.
I am so busy.
Under the mouth, so it's just either like the chin or just kind of that little crease in there. Okay, so I put my health at the bottom of my list.
I put my health at the bottom of the list.
Okay, that collarbone point is right underneath the collarbone. Again, you can use one hand, you can use both. Okay, just kind of tapping there just below the collarbone point. Okay, everything else comes first.
Everything else comes first.
Under the arm, which for us women is like the bra strap line, and for men, if you can imagine a bra strap line. Okay, movement is not a priority in my life.
Movement is not a priority in my life.
Okay, top of the head, even though I know there are so many benefits.
Even though I know there are so many benefits.
All right, so we'll come back to the eyebrow point. I just don't have any time.
I just don't have any time.
Side of the eye, my job is so demanding.
My job is so demanding.
Under the eye, my life is so busy.
My life is so busy.
Under the nose, there is no time for me.
There is no time for me.
Under the mouth, my health is not my priority.
My health is not my priority.
Back to that collarbone point, I am not a person who exercises regularly.
I am not a person that exercises regularly.
Okay, under the arm, I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Top of the head, so I don't make it a priority.
So I don't make it a priority.
All right, we're going to do one more round. So back to the eyebrow point. It takes so much time.
It takes so much time.
Okay, side of the eye, and I have to do it perfectly.
And I have to do it perfectly.
Under the eye, or else it's not worth it.
Or else it's not worth it.
Under the nose, so I don't have time for that.
So I don't have time for that.
Chin, my health is not my priority.
My health is not my priority.
Collarbone point, my job and my other commitments are.
My job and my other commitments are.
Under the arm, I don't like exercising.
I don't like exercising.
Top of the head, and I'm so busy and have no time.
And I'm so busy and have so little time.
Little time. Yeah. All right. And just slowly stop tapping. Take a nice deep breath. So how did that feel? So even for you, Casey, so exercise is a regular routine for you. How does your body just feel even just doing the tapping?
I feel kind of like these little like comfortable waves.
Yeah,
Pulses, kind of.
I love it.
I don't know what that means, but
Yeah. So basically, just by tapping on the point. So even though you might not have related to some of this stuff we
I
were
know, I
saying,
totally
because
do. It's
with
hard
some
to,
of them, right?
yeah,
And or sometimes you can be like, well, I'm not making something else a priority, right? Like,
yeah,
so even though you might not related that to exercise because you do it quite often, but sometimes it's like, oh, but I don't make this a priority and I should. So those words can relate differently.
yeah,
And I hit on a few different things there because a lot of like when we're saying we don't have time is basically we're telling ourselves and our soul that our health is on the bottom of our priority list. Right. So we might not consciously think that's what we're saying, but that's really what we're telling ourselves. And that's why a lot of people get all like, I just don't have time. And because they know it's disconnected from the soul, they're telling themselves my health is not my priority because most people know the benefits, but they're not doing it. So when you can tap and release that, actually sometimes just saying it out loud, women are like, oh, that just feels so good. And they get those waves. A lot of, women do the and it's like the stress leaving their body. So
wow.
we're tapping on these points to send a calming signal to the stress center of the brain, which is the amygdala. So that's why you have those kind of calming waves.
That's
as we
a common thing that you've heard that
Yeah.
before.
Oh yeah, that's that honestly I love seeing. I mean, I work with mostly women, but men and women obviously can do this.
Yeah,
But they literally motion with their hands and kind of swoosh down their body. They're like, I just feel this, which would be similar to how you said these calming waves. Like just
yeah,
it's like the stress kind of like,
yeah.
that's the beauty of tapping. It's can be used for so many things.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm such if you looked at the video from the start to now, I'm completely more relaxed. I would definitely say that uh, that's confirmed. Uh,
Yeah.
you can probably see it.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really cool. So that's something that you do. Um, and let me give you the floor here because we thank you for doing that, by the way. Thank you for
Yeah. You're
introducing me
welcome.
to that.
I absolutely love doing it.
That was cool. Let me give you the last word here. So I want to give you the floor. Anything that you want us to think about, and let us know how to get a hold of you. And by the way,
Yeah.
that was really. Look at me, Mr. Producer. He was doing it too, and he's you relaxed? Yeah, yeah, he is
I
too.
love it. So, and honestly, and this is for you, for anybody, even if you don't remember all of the points, but you're feeling whether it's nervous, stressed, anxious, just start tapping and just say what you're feeling out loud. And even if you can't think of words, just tap on the points. And then, and just like, it's just, you're sending a calming signal to the brain. So it's going to help your body relax. Um, so to get a hold of me, I'm on Instagram at Dixon Vitality. So Dixon, Dixon, Vitality, Vitality. And that's Instagram. You could also email me at laura.dixon@rogers.com. So we can definitely chat and see if something I have is a great fit. And if not, that's okay too. I also, have a wealth of practitioners around me. If something I'm not doing is a great fit, I can always pin or direct you to somebody who might be just exactly what you're looking for. But
All right.
I love the EFT. I love seeing like people like you. You're just like, oh wow, I feel really good.
Yeah,
Like
I was
this is awesome.
I that's pretty awesome. And but I know I'm late, but um, is it always in that order? Do you have to do that order? Do you have to do the eyebrow, then the side, and then the
You under the you don't have to. So if you were doing it on your own, you're like, oh my gosh, I only remember this point, just tap on them. As practitioners, we do that kind of flow. But if you were doing it on your own and you're like, I just remember one point, or you have a favorite, because the different points are hitting different parts in your bodies, right? So like small intestine, all that kind of stuff, stomach. So maybe that's where you're holding more issues, right? So if there's a point that really resonates, it's like just hold that and do a few rounds on just tapping on that point. I love the collarbone point. It just feels so
okay?
relaxing.
And do you always end on the head? Do you have to do that? And
You don't have to. No,
you
no,
don't
no.
have
You
to.
don't. Yep. You don't have to do any pattern. Like I mean, if you remember it, it just becomes kind of habit for sure. You can go around, but again, if you just remember a few points or you have a few favorites, just tap on those. That's okay too.
Awesome, awesome. Laura, one more time, please. Let people know how to get a hold of you. Just one more time. Sorry, to
Yeah.
make you repeat yourself, but
Yeah, no, 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 that's for sure. So I'm on Instagram at Dixon Vitality. You could also email me at laura.dixon@rogers.com.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes,
And
thank you.
can't
Happy
wait to hear.
Thanksgiving
Thank
for
you.
American friends.
All right. Laura Dixon, everybody, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you,
everything's just going to be okay.